Welcome back. I am here with Brian Pirrip. Brian is actually my most favorite person to follow on the internet. I think I posted today in a story. I was like, my favorite Instagram account is Brian. And I've heard you lovingly referred to on other podcasts as the Pied Piper of baseball cards.
Yeah.
You have gained in the last couple years, from what I can see, is not just a large, but the most devoted following of like nostalgic sports card collecting enthusiasts. And I want to start with one quote this is something that you said on another podcast. You said, and I've said this to like multiple people since I heard it because you just nailed it. You said, what usually ends up happening with most things we feel shame about in life is that once we start telling people about it and being our authentic self, people love it, man.
And Matt, it's strangely absolutely true. It's amazing how shameful I felt about sports cards, trading cards. This has been a huge hobby of mine since I was a kid, but particularly the last 15 years, I
Yeah.
really got into it. But I would like sneak off. I would kind of like, if I was having a really bad day, I'd head off to the card shop that somebody else might do, going to a strip club or something. I'd go to the card shop and or somebody would go to the bar, right? Go drown their worries, right? My version of that was going to the card shop, buying a box, and going back to my hotel, ripping it open, watching a movie, eating some pizza, and I'd feel better about the world. But there was this kind of feeling that as a grown man, as an adult, I shouldn't be going and buying trading cards. That's something the kids do. And then once I kind of essentially started talking about it this last 2 years, I discovered actually this is a very normal thing. There's a lot of dudes doing this. There's people all over the world doing this. I get notes from people in every country in the world saying, I buy trading cards. I'd love to meet you. I'd like to talk about cards. When can we meet up? It's amazing. It's shocking.
And so this is a relatively new thing.
Oh, yeah.
COVID-19 just destroyed the previous business you had, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was in the worst possible business anyone could be in, which was
Say it, because I think that people will agree with you once you say that.
I was making travel television shows with China, and I
Yeah.
had a tourism company with China. So I was filming content in the United States for broadcast in China, and then I was bringing tourists from China into the United States to go
Yeah.
travel around the country with very bespoke, kind of high-end tours with Americans that spoke perfect Chinese.
It would have been hard to choose a worse type of industry and job
Yeah, no,
based
it
off
was
of what
brutal. I was actually supposed to be flying into China. I was actually there kind of summer and fall of 2019 before the pandemic. And mysteriously, I actually was quite sick that fall. And but I was in China, and then I was spending some time in Hawaii. That's kind of my in-between place, and I have family in Hawaii.
Right.
And so I was living there, and all of a sudden, I'm trying to fly back to China, and I'm being told I can't get on a
You
plane,
can't get off.
that I can't get back to go meet up with my
So
partner.
this entire business that you had been building for many years, for the foreseeable future, probably seemed like forever. I mean,
Yeah,
I would be surprised if it's even anywhere close back up to
it's
where
a
it is
different,
now.
it's an
Um,
entirely different relationship now with the country.
it's it's entirely different. I actually asked. We were you knew this. We were in Jackson, Wyoming, a couple weeks ago, and I asked. We hitchhiked back from one of the hikes, Allison and I, just because I don't know why not. And so we hitchhiked back, and one of the people we hitchhiked back with was volunteering as a park ranger, as like a volunteer park ranger in Yellowstone. And so I asked her. I was like, "Is the tourism back up?" She goes, "Yeah, the local tourism is, but we're not getting the tour buses from Asia like we used to." And she said, we have no idea when that's gonna start again, if it is or if it isn't. And so that happened, and you basically just stood there and you were just like, I, when did you decide to start? I
Doing
mean, you always
baseball
liked
cards.
baseball cards and sports cards, but when did you decide then to say, yo, you know what? I'm a I'm a follow. I'm gonna let my geek flag fly here. I'm gonna follow my
Yeah,
nerdy
well,
obsession a little bit.
it was it was a strange thing. It was spent some time in Hawaii, licking my wounds, just kind of going, man, okay, I got to rethink things because, I can't do tourism anymore, can't do television. And I'd been working on that Chinese television and tourism company for about 10 years. It was really my dream company. I'd started that way back in the day out of business school,
Right.
and it had kind of taken over my life. It was very much, I was fully involved in that. I'd spent about a year and a half in China, and about a year in India, all devoted to this kind of emerging markets television. And and then when I was in Hawaii, I had a friend reach out and say, "Hey, there's this health and wellness company in California that has locations, California and New York, that needs a new CEO to run the company, and I thought you'd be a good fit." And I'm like, I don't know anything about health and wellness. It's not my space. I think it's cool. And so I flew into Los Angeles and I called my production team, the same guys that I've been doing television and tourism with, and
Right.
I said, "Hey, how do you guys feel about doing some health and wellness, taking over this company and growing it?"
Right.
And they're jack of all trades, right? And we have a really good team,
Sure.
and we've been working together for 10 years. Um, and so we got to Los Angeles, started building this company. We started. It was a lot of like at-home COVID testing, booster shots, IVs, something I don't know anything about, and we did pretty well with it. But it hit the point where it wasn't a passion of mine. I just
Yeah.
don't know enough about it. I'm not a doctor, and I felt that in order to run this company correctly, you really have to have more medical knowledge. And I was just talking with my guys one day, and they're like, and one of my guys, Colin, said, "Brian, certainly there's another business that you would want to kind of put all of our cash into and
Right.
really hit it. Something that we all care about." And Colin's really into baseball. My guy Sam's really into football. They understand cards, and they've heard me for a while talk about the protection and display of sports cards. And I said, one idea for a business, and I have a whole list of business ideas of I
Your just
I have
mind
too
goes
many.
that way, right?
Yeah, that's just where my
Yeah.
mind goes. I have a whole folder of just my ideas for future businesses. And one of them, I was telling the guys, I said, well, there's always this one idea. I said, I have my trading cards, and they didn't even know very much about my card stuff because I just didn't talk about it.
Hmm.
And I said, well, these cards, some of them sell as much as a card sold last year for $12.6 million, a
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle card,
Yeah.
12.6 million US dollars. And I said, but they use the same cheap plastic that I had when I was a kid. Like cheap plastic that
Nobody's innovated on it. Like,
nobody.
I distinctly remember being with a friend of mine in college, and we were in the bank, and he went to deposit a check, and he picked up the envelope from the check, and he goes, "Holy shit, look at this." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Somebody just innovated on the envelope." Like, this
Yeah,
was the first time we had ever seen, you used to like take an envelope and you licked it and you put it
yeah,
shut. And this was the first time that he saw there was a peel away sticker thing that you peeled away. And I was like, somebody looked at, like, can you imagine being the person who looks at an envelope and is like, now we can do better? But when was the last time you saw like an envelope that you lick? I mean,
yeah,
it's just like,
yeah,
it's so clearly better, and it takes somebody like you to look at it and to really, and this is what I want to get into, to like be obsessed about the thing.
yeah,
I mean, the company that, and we'll talk about Mints, the company that you're launching. I want to talk about your audience development and how just pinpointed that is as well. But, and how, like, I found you, because that's how
yeah,
I found you as well. I just loved your videos, and I sent you a message one day, and then we
yeah,
geeked out on this Ken Griffey Jr. card behind me. But
exactly.
like, this idea of when you're obsessed with something, you figure out how to scratch your own itch, and you see opportunities where others don't.
Yeah,
But you have to be
absolutely.
willing to look. Yeah, you have to be willing to accept that it's okay to be a little bit weird with what you're obsessed about, and there are other people too, like
Yeah,
that. So cheap plastic cases, okay.
yeah. You have to. It's when you are starting a company, you have to be accept that the thing that you might like and the thing you might think is a great idea, you might get really, really tired of it. I once heard somebody once said that you have to go into any entrepreneurship thing accepting that the next 2 years of your life are going to be fully devoted to that one topic and only that one topic, and that all your friends and family are going to get sick of you talking about that one topic
So
because
you better
it
love
needs
it.
to permeate entirely every part of your life. And if you're not
Yep.
prepared for a minimum 2 year commitment into obsessing over that one particular thing, move on. And that's kind of what got my guy Colin to say, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to?
Yeah.
And he goes, you don't want to do health and wellness. You don't want to go back to
What do you
Chinese
want to
television
talk
and
about
tourism.
every day of your life? Like, what do you want to, like, who do you want to
Yeah.
geek out with, right?
Well, for me, what I enjoy is it's not just about the topic I'm geeking out on. It's who I'm geeking out with, right?
Yeah, tell me about
Because
that.
because the number one, obviously the most important thing about being an entrepreneur, more than anything else, is surrounding yourself with good people. And that is something, if there's one thing that I've been really lucky at or very good at, it's picking really, really great people that are better than me and all the things I need them to be better than me or complementary to the things, but also people that I just want to spend time with, that I don't get tired with. I spend
Yeah.
nearly all day, every day with my two main guys, Sam and Colin.
Mm.
And it's been, I've been working with them for 11 years now, and I never get sick of them. I never get tired of them. I enjoy their company tremendously. They're like best friends, but we also pull together all the same time in what we're doing. And so it was that one day where Colin's like, "Hey man, like, what do you want to go into?" And I told him, I said, nobody is building good displays or protections for collectibles, not just sports cards, but like shoes, coins, comic books, stamps, dolls, whatever somebody collects. There just aren't protections and displays. You can't walk into a
Right.
frame shop and get it done. And so I thought, there's a better way to do this. Let me explore it. Let me put some feelers out. Let me research the industry and see if anyone's doing it right. And what I came across is that people have been accepting this is a 140-year-old
Yeah.
hobby, baseball cards, right? For 140 years, people just do with what they've got. And so if they only have cheap plastic, it's kind of like, well, okay, I've got $1 million card. I'm going to put it in a cheap piece of plastic, and somehow the entire world has accepted that, and that's the status quo. In fact, some people are extremely loyal to the plastic cases that are out there, which I think is ridiculous. I always thought there was a better way to do it, and I think there's a better way to do almost anything in this world. You just have to become dedicated. So I decided to put all my resources, my time, and in fact, I brought a team of MBAs from the University of Cambridge who I knew, and I brought them out to the States, and I had them for 6 weeks, or it was almost 2 months. These MBAs, the team of 5 of them, and they're all like McKinsey types, and they all went and researched the sports card industry, the trading cards, the Pokemon,
Right.
all to see if there were any other companies that were remotely doing what we're doing, what the opportunities were, what the risks were, how much it would cost for us to start up. One of the guys was this private equity guy who was a genius with financial modeling. And we went and modeled out all the potentials for opportunity. And then we hired the best industrial and design and mechanical engineering firm in the country, from my perspective.
But
And they went
here's the
and
cool
started.
part about all of that. Like, the cool part about all of this is, yes, I want to get into what you've built and what you're launching, but I want to talk about what you were doing at the same time,
Yeah.
which is your guy Colin turned the camera on you one day, out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and said, "Tell me about your favorite baseball card."
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was not a Ken Griffey Jr., which is upsetting. but-
I was sitting at my desk, and it's actually my guy Sam. My guy Sam is very social media minded. Like, he's very cool. He's a
Okay.
younger guy, and he comes up, and I hadn't even taken a shower. I just woken up, sitting on my desk. I was all disheveled, and he'd been telling me a couple days before. He's like, "I'm going to film a TikTok with you," and I was like, "Nah, I don't really want to do that. I like being behind the camera instead of front of the camera." And he goes, "I'm just going to film you talking about one of your favorite cards." And so I had this one of my favorite cards, probably one of my top five, is this 1986 Donruss Jose Canseco rookie card, which I think is a great card. And it really harkens back to my childhood. It's like it was this unattainable card from when I was a kid. It was like $100 back in 1989, and who could afford $100 in '89? And so I just started talking about this card. He filmed it, put it on TikTok like an hour later with no real editing, and it had like 37,000 people watched it by the next morning. And we're like, "Whoa, what just happened?" So
Right.
we did another one where we filmed me talking about Ken Griffey Jr., who's
Yep.
who's my favorite baseball player of all time. And the next morning, there 100,000 people watched it, and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, something's going on here. And so
Yeah.
it just started telling stories about childhood and baseball cards.
There's so much nostalgia. I mean, what I told you,
There we go.
I showed you a picture of this Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah,
card, and
yeah.
like I didn't just bring this out for our call. Like anybody who's ever seen another call with me, like this is always behind me. And the reason for that
Classy
is
man, which
very
is cool.
classy, man. The reason for that is growing up, I collected Ken Griffey Jr. cards, as a lot of guys did where I grew up, and I could never afford Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck #1. It was like $80, right? But I just like I couldn't afford it. I had all of his other rookie cards, and I told myself that one day, I will make enough money in business. My goal in life is to one day make enough money in business to afford Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck #1. That's how I will know that I've made it. And that's my story with this card. That's why I keep it behind me. To remind myself that I've already made it based off of my childhood self. Think about how many people have stories like that with these cards. And what I love about what you do is that you're so obsessive about the hobby and just the joy that it brings. Like, where's the craziest place you've opened up a pack of cards with somebody?
Craziest place would be I was out in the Everglades, not the Everglades, the bayou of New Orleans, and Sam and I were on a airboat
Okay.
around a bunch of alligators, and we're opening cards with the people on the airboat,
You
and
just like meet
found
people,
we meet people everywhere we go.
but you
We've
film
met,
it.
yeah, we film all of it, and it's bizarre. No matter who I talk to, wherever I go, even if it's like my Uber driver, there is if I ever say, "Hey, do you collect cards, or did you collect cards when you were a kid?" Either they collected cards at some point, or their friend did, or their dad did, or their mom did, or their sister did.
Yeah.
Somebody in their world collected cards at some point, and it instantly transports people to a happy time. It was actually really interesting. On our Sam and I had gone on this like 3-month trip all around the United States, and we went to city after city, and we were meeting up with people in the most bizarre of places, from Sand Dunes National Park to jumping out of airplanes, that sort of thing, and everyone we would meet, as soon as we talk about that we were opening cards or opening packs, instant transporting to childhood, the happy feelings of nostalgia. And what we discovered through that whole process was that it wasn't about the cards. It never was about the cards. There's some sort of it transcends various cultures. I could go into any part of any city, and if I had a pack of cards and I opened it with somebody, we're talking about sports. It transcends culture and it just somehow, when people relate through sports and trading cards, it brings them to a place that kind of makes everybody equal and everybody telling stories. And it's very transcendent. It's more than just about the cards. It's not about the players. It's not about how much the value is. There's something else about these cards
That's the
that's
part
very
that you
special.
tapped into, was it's not about the value. Because what you see all over the place is like, yeah, we're ripping open these packs and we're getting, all these pack rippers, right? We're trying to get these 100,000 whatever $1 million cards. But it's not about that for most collectors. It's about the childhood, it's about the nostalgia. And I think what you tapped into and what you continue to tap into, I watch your videos on Facebook and Instagram because I refuse to create a TikTok account. But I mean, you're way bigger on TikTok than anywhere else. Like that's like your main thing. But I just refuse to go on TikTok. But there was something about the joy to your videos that attracted me way before we had met. Was that you were just like, you go up to a random person with objectively a really shitty pack of cards.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like not worth anything, right? Like nothing you could get in this pack of cards is worth more than 50 cents. it's just laughable. Like Allison,
Yeah.
my wife showed me one time, she had this early on when we were dating. She's like, yeah, years back, my older brother sold me this binder of cards. It's pretty old. I wonder if it's worth anything. And I'm looking through it and it's like 1991 score. I'm just like, nothing in here is worth anything.
Yeah.
But the story behind that is what's cool. And so you get together with people
Yeah.
and you connect as humans
Yeah.
with these people, and the conduit between the two of you is this connection that you have in your childhood. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful to watch what happens, because then other people come in and I see you, like, on the street. You do it at the top of a hike one time. You just like hike to the top of a mountain and there's somebody else there having like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever. And you're like, yeah, you want to open up a pack of cards with me? Like, it's just cool as shit for people like me who are watching it. And it's so different than this flashy, like, social media thing, that it appeals to the exact right type of person in a way that is so deep and emotional to us.
Yeah.
That it hit. And you didn't just build a big, nameless, useless audience. I don't think I've ever seen a specific pinpointed audience quite as valuable as yours.
It's actually bizarre. It's weird how loyal and how dedicated this following is. Like,
That's the word I was
I
looking
think
for.
we're
Loyal.
yeah. I think what really kind of started this is that's why we started having those massive views on TikTok right out of the gate. Like, there was no kind of slow growth. It was like very quick growth. And I think where that came is that I think the whole hobby of trading cards had been overly saturated with these guys just, opening very expensive packs, finding that one of one, super expensive auto refractor rookie patch auto, numbered to one that's,
And just at a
and
certain
we're,
point, who gives a shit?
well,
Really.
that's the thing, is that I think that people have been overly saturated and got tired of it. And it was just all about the financial gain or the financial, which, I mean, of course, I love having some nice expensive cards, but when I started telling stories about the connection of cards, or how it reminds me of going to the card shop with my mom that one time when I was like 9 years old and sick or whatever, and then hearing other people's stories. And so what's happened, especially in the first few months, I started getting people from all over the world sending me DMs and writing these very long stories about how their dad took them to a card shop and then he died, or this person or that person, and these tragic or beautiful stories from multiple perspectives. And it was just like, I would sit there in my room reading these stories or these comments, and I'm just like, what have we, what
What are
we
we
kind of
tapping
triggered?
into
What
here?
are we tapping into? There's something there. And so, like, I'd taken the guys to a Dodgers game, and I had this box of really crappy cards, 1989 tops, that
Yeah.
got the bubble gum in there. And
Like,
yeah,
how much does a box, for anybody who doesn't know, like, how much does that box cost?
like that box, I think I bought it for $20.
Like I see you going around in card shows, like, asking people if they have, like, specific packs of this, and they just laugh in your face.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, why would anybody have that? Like, it's
Yeah.
just completely worthless, right?
And that's what I find is funny, is that I'll go and post a video of me running around a card show looking for a $2 card, and it will get a million people will watch that video, because they're wondering why all these kind of pretentious people in the card hobby are turning up their noses about a card that I think is really cool from when I was a kid. But anyway, so I'm at this baseball game with my guys, and we're walking to our seats, and I got this box of 89 tops, and we're just gonna like open up some packs together while we're watching the players, because it's one of the things I like to do. And some guy, as I'm walking through the upper deck, he goes, "Hey, is that a box of Topps baseball cards?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, bro, is there any chance I can get one?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man." So I handed him a pack, and it was like I had a giant loaf of bread and I was at the beach and a million seagulls came all at once, because instantly the crowds all in the upper decks, everyone was like, "Can I have a pack? Can I have a pack? Can I have a pack?" And next thing you know, I'm just chucking packs out into the crowd. And within, a couple minutes, it was like all over, and I'm walking down to our seats without the cards. And these people, like, after the game was like, I could turn around when I was in my seats, and you saw that these grown adults and their kids were talking about the cards. They were passing them. They were trading them, and
And yet
and
you were embarrassed about this hobby.
yeah, yeah. And I was. And now what I've discovered is that it's a tie that binds a lot of people. It's a tie that binds, and now I embrace it in every possible way.
Well, it's an inherently human
Right?
thing. This is what jumps out at me. It's not about the picture on a piece of cardboard.
No.
It's about the story, it's about the nostalgia, it's about the history. It connects us via the stories, right?
Yes.
The codes bring out these memories of our childhood, of a, call it a simpler time, of a different time, whatever, whether it's a positive or negative memory, whatever. It's a memory that we're bound within. And the beautiful thing about that is multifaceted for what you're doing. Number one, yeah, it's a phenomenal audience that you can build because it's on a deeper emotional level. Very few people will do it because you need to like pound the pavement. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but also you're building this audience with there's virtually unlimited amounts of content that you could create. Like your content is you can go out on a street anywhere in the United States and just talk to any random stranger and be like, hey, you want to open up this pack? And they'll be like, oh my God, I used to go to card shows with my father, and then this, and then that, and then I met, and they're opening the pack, and they're like, one time I met this player, or I saw this guy hit. Like, it's just,
Yeah,
it's virtually unlimited content.
it is. It is.
But let's talk about the insane, unscalable way at which you're growing this. How many nights did you tell me you spent in a Marriott hotel last year?
I spent 300 nights. In fact, I would shock the front desk every time I would check in. They'd be like, "Wait, how many nights?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 300." And they're like, the highest tier of Marriott only requires you to spend 100 nights in a hotel that year, and I tripled that last year. And so it's like, it's out of control. That's the thing is I have so much fun talking to people around this country and around. I flew to England. I flew to Italy. I've flown to all around the world, going and talking cards with people, and I have such a great time doing it. A lot of people are more tied down. I have the opportunity to kind of roll around the way
Sure.
I'd like to, and so as long as I'm having a great time. So I'm not traveling the country because I need to. It's because I'm really having a great time. It's a part. I mean,
It's
I was doing travel shows with China, right, which required me also going on road trips. I just
right.
love traveling and being on the road. It's part of
But
the
there's
way.
just because you love this so much, there's this a contagious energy that you always have, but also just unlimited energy. Like you're not faking it. But
Yeah, yeah,
you're
none
going
of
and
it's
talking to
fake. That's what's
people.
funny.
Yeah. Well, it's not work, it's play. And I think this is one of the main messages is you can feel that through your content. Like that's why your content is successful. It's play. But you're also, you're promoting other people in the hobby too. Like you're doing tours of local card shops, right? So
Yeah.
talk to me about when that started, because I've never actually asked you that. You go into code
Yeah.
shops, you basically say, I'm in this amazing code shop in this small town, go visit it. They don't have any platform. You've got a huge platform. It's great for them, and you're opening packs in their code shop with them. How did that all
Yeah.
start?
It I think the first one was probably in Huntington Beach, California. I think that was the first one that we did. And I had been, see, that's the thing is it wasn't really a planned thing. I naturally, for the last 15 years since I've been back into cards, anytime I travel the country for like my Chinese television stuff or any of the, whatever I was doing, as a way to kind of connect with a local culture of whatever city I was in the United States, I would duck into the local card shop. Um, in fact, it even backs up further. Like, yeah, 15 years ago, I was living at my grandmother's house in Vancouver, Canada. Uh, my mother's whole side of the family is Canadian up there, and I I was going through a real challenging time in life. I was transitioning from a music career into going to business school, and I was just, life changes when you turn in 30. And I had ducked into I had kind of rediscovered baseball cards, and it somehow really filled me with a lot of happy feelings from earlier happy times. And I started going to these different card shops around Vancouver, and I would kind of duck in, buy some stuff, go back to the house and open them up. And so from then on, once I started doing television and travel stuff, any city I was in, I would duck
Yeah.
into and go to the local card shop. And it was a way to kind of meet people from whatever city, whether I was in Oklahoma or New York or Georgia or Montreal, right? I would go into these card shops, and it was a way to meet people, to because you always get local flavor whenever you're in a card shop. You understand what St. Louis is like if you go to a St. Louis card shop. It is
Right.
very much a cross section of what that city is like. And so we, uh, Colin and Sam had taken me into this card shop in, I think, Huntington Beach, and they're like, "Hey, just film you walking in there and showing things." And so I walk in and I'm talking to the owner about what his favorite cards are or whatever, opening some packs with the locals that are in there
Whoever
shopping.
else is in there,
Walk,
yeah.
hand them
What was
out.
one you posted the other day? There was a kid in the shop
Yeah, that was
that
at
you were
MB
opening packs
Sports
with.
Cards in Laguna Beach, California, and I'd walked in there, and there's this really nice family that was in there, this mom and her two kids, and this I think the kid was probably 8 or 9 or 10, and I bought some packs of cards. I was looking for a Don Mattingly rookie card, and I just asked the kid if he wanted to open some packs with me, and I asked his mom, is that cool? And she's like, yeah, of course. And are you cool with us filming this? Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Okay. So he starts opening the packs, and we just started enjoying talking about cards. And, we always stay longer in card shops than what we film. We don't always post everything
Sure.
we do. We talk to the card shop owners. We'll talk to everyone in there. Sometimes we'll take pictures or
But
whatever.
think about what you're doing then. Like,
Yeah.
I always joke with people in our communities. They're like, yeah, I'm building all these funnels and I'm doing content and it's not hitting and I'm not getting customers. Can you look at my Instagram account and tell me how I can funnel people better to my funnel, which is funneling people into that funnel? And my answer to them is always another question, which is quite simple. How many people have you spoken to today?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, but like I did this content and it kind of hit, but like nobody funneled from it. And I'm like, no, it's cool. It's cool. But like, how many people have you spoken to today? And they're like, well, how do I find people to talk to? I'm like, that's your fucking job, dude. Like, if you're not obsessed with your thing enough that you can't figure out 5 people to go speak to today that are also obsessed with that thing,
Yeah.
you're not doing the right thing. What you're doing here, when you're like think about, okay, so I know that I want to innovate on the display aspect of this industry, right? I think that's what I want to do. I'm not quite sure. I'm doing a bunch of research into it, but like I think that's where we're going. Okay, in the meantime, well, why don't, like, what you have been doing this entire time is you've been building a Rolodex of basically everybody around the United States that is obsessed with this. And you're doing it by giving them value. You're going to the card shops, you're promoting them. The card shop owners are going to follow you on social media. I'm guessing
Yeah.
you probably have their contact info. They like you because they've actually met you. Other people in the shops, people they know, I've heard you on, I've listened to a bunch of podcasts of like sports card collectible podcast people. And these are every single one, like you meet them at card shows.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you are building by really pounding the pavement, but sharing this hobby, leading with value, this Rolodex of real human connections.
Yeah. And
And
the
you're
funny
doing
thing
it
is,
by giving them value first. Shit.
yeah, well, because
That's
we're
beautiful.
not doing it for the sake of let's go make money from these people, right? We haven't, like, anytime I go to a card shop, I've never once called a card shop ahead of time and said, "Hey, we're coming over. Hey, we want you to sponsor this. We want you to provide us some cash for us to do a post about you guys." I've
Right.
never done that. Every single time, it's just like, okay, what are we going to film today? Hey, well, let's go. Okay, right now we're in Chicago. Let's go to this cool card shop in South Chicago, see what it's like. And so we'll roll into the shop. Yeah, it's funny. One time, I was in, I think it was Temecula, California, and
course.
I go rolling up to this card
Sounds
shop,
made up.
and yeah, it sounds made up. And I go outside the card shop and I start filming, a little intro piece. And I was by myself there that day, so I just
Right.
filming myself and just kind of talking. And I could see a bunch of people in the shop. And as soon as I walked in, it was all quiet. All these people are quiet, milling around, doing their thing. And one guy immediately rolls up to me. He's like, "I know you. I know your stuff. I watch
Yeah.
everything you do." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we got somebody else to take a picture. And then I said, "Well, does anybody want to open some packs with me? I'm going to go buy a box and we're going to open packs." And so we walking over to the register, and this other guy comes over. He's like, "Hey, man, I started collecting cards again because I've been watching your content." And
Yeah.
he goes, "Look at this. I just pulled this Mike Trout, autographed, numbered to whatever that's worth like thousands of dollars. He goes, I just pulled this out of a box here, just like today because I watch your content. He's like, thank you so much. You know, can I take a picture? And so we do that too. And so we over to the register, and I'm buying packs. We're handing them all out, having a great time, and there's no acting. It's just this is who I am. This is what I
Yeah.
enjoy doing. We're opening packs. We're talking about favorite players, and then I roll out of the card shop, and the card shop owner guy follows me out. He goes, I got to tell you, Brian, everyone in the card shop before you walked in, we all knew who you were when we saw you outside filming, but we all tried to play it like cool, like we didn't know who you were when you walked in. And so, and he's like, you know, hey, maybe we could talk about doing some sort of a sponsorship
Right.
down the line kind of thing. And so it's just, I think one of the important things about entrepreneurship is you have to kind of, it really is, you have to love it, right? I met all these musicians when I was in the music business in Hollywood 10, 15, 20 years ago, where they would want to sit in their studios and record music, write music, and they'd make their albums, and they would want to just have them somehow be discovered. And I would always
Right.
tell people that want to get into the music business, if you want to break out, you have to go play shows. You have to, whether it's a coffee shop or a nightclub or whatever, you have to pound the pavement and go and play live music. I don't care what style of music you are. If you don't play live stuff and you don't connect with your audience, you'll never kind of make it just by having an album. And usually what people's response to that is, well, I just need to make another single. I have to make another album. Once we get the album better and we add a couple new singles on there, then it's just going to explode. And I'm like, it'll never happen.
I
You're not
just need
playing
to
live music.
dance on the internet a little bit better. I just need to figure out a bit
Yeah,
better words to point at in space about my thing. Like, no,
yeah.
you don't need
No,
any of
it's all
that. I mean,
excuses. It's excuses that people give themselves because it's comfort zone stuff.
it's comfort zone stuff, and this idea now of, I mean, this is the obvious choice. Like you're the case study for the obvious choice. like because it's not trying to appeal to even an industry. It's appealing to a subsection of that industry, right? It's like, I want to find basically people like me, people who, one of the chapters is literally called Let Your Geek Flag Fly. Like, I want to find people who share the same geek flag
Yeah.
and build something around them or build something for them or support them. But when you do that, you realize just how many people there are, and you become famous to a few.
Yeah.
And I
how you
see
do
it. Like you, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you're cherry picking your content. Like you post yourself walking around the National Card Show, like the big card show, that happens each year, and people are like, yo, I see your videos all the time. Like, people are stopping you now. Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen on the street, but when you go into a specific room with your types of people, you're famous to the people.
Yeah.
That is actually, unless you get to the point where you're an A-list celebrity, like, that's a different thing. But like, the position that you have is actually the most valuable position that you could ever have. To be famous to a very select group of people around a select idea
Yeah.
is way more valuable than in a much bigger audience where
Yeah, you nailed it.
simply entertain around a thing. So tell me, okay, so you're at the point now, and it's to the point also, I should hit this, where like pro athletes are sending you messages and being like who was I mean, we don't have to say his name because I think it might have been private, but you sent me a text. You're like, yo, look at who just messaged me, and he was a pitcher for the Yankees, and I was like, screw that guy, he's on the Yankees, go Jays, go. But it was like one of the best pitchers on the Yankees sent you what was an Instagram DM, and he was like,
Yeah.
hey man, I collect cards all the time. The product that you're coming out looks great. Like, I'd love to buy some when it's out. And you and him just like connected on a chat for an hour about baseball cards, right?
Yeah, yeah, just like that. Like, I'm flying off to New York actually in about a week or two to go meet up with him and some of his friends, or to go. I'm going to be sitting with my favorite pitcher from the Yankees of the last several years and talking about cards. We're going to open a box looking for his own rookie card,
Right.
and he DM'd me out of the blue just because he's seen the content. He collects himself, and he's not the only one that's happened with. So it's just
Yeah.
been. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So I
People
think you're right.
discover it that are like you've reignited that passion in me that was quieted for 25 years. I mean, I started seeing your stuff, and I saw everybody else opening up and whipping cards, and every once in a while I'd watch it and whatever. And it was, but there was something about the pure joy and emotion and like togetherness and humanity amongst how you were approaching it that I was like, oh, this is something I want to get back into.
That
And
actually makes me really happy. I love hearing that.
it's
And
true,
it
man.
doesn't get old, right? Like it's and the funny thing about a lot of guys, right? Because the hobby tends to be split kind of 90-10 male to female from
Yeah,
following and also from what I observe at card shops or card shows
yeah.
and
It's a post office in those card shops, right? There's far too much mail.
yeah, yeah. But what's funny is in some of the other spaces like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, those especially Pokemon, there skews a lot of women, right? And so
Oh,
one of
really?
my goals
Would
actually
you
is
say
I
it's
plan
like
on
50-50?
yeah, I think it's probably more 50-50.
Oh,
And
wow.
I
Okay.
plan on kind of with what I'm doing, I want to expand into the Pokemon crowd and into the Magic the Gathering. I plan on going out to Tokyo and meeting up with one of the more famous people in the Pokemon space. He and I are going to be doing something in Tokyo where we're going to go out there and open cards and put them into our cases and those sorts of
Oh
things. And so
God,
I plan on
you go in like oh what's even it's been so long since I've been to Tokyo. You go to some of the more busy places in
Shibuya
Tokyo
or
and you
whatever. I
start
can't remember the yeah.
yeah, and you start I can't remember what the areas are called now. Like we went to see like robot battles and all this stuff. It was crazy. We were so jet lagged. It was just crazy. Allison was like super pregnant. It was hilarious. But like we went to the tsetse market at like 4 in the morning and had sushi, right? But you go into some of those like busier areas and you start giving away
Yeah.
Pokemon cards, you're gonna cause a riot. Like
Yeah, that's what
film
I
that.
intend on doing.
That's gonna be
Funny enough,
nuts, man.
I spent my childhood in Japan, right? I was a little kid there, and so I was speaking Japanese the same time I was speaking English when I was a kid, and so
Oh
the
really?
idea of rolling into Tokyo, handing out Pokemon cards, and hanging out with our main brand ambassador in Tokyo is just going to be, yeah. I
Do you
think
speak
it's going to be
Japanese still?
pretty. Um, it's been a while. I mean, I haven't been
Okay.
to the last time I was in Tokyo was about 10 years ago, but when I
Okay.
was a kid, I was speaking it, and a lot of it comes right back as soon as I
You'll
land
get
in
it back.
Tokyo. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll get it back.
but yeah. So what we're doing, it really does. Like I like what you said about kind of the niche, right? If you're building a niche and you have a following and you have a dedicated group and you actually care about what you're doing and love it and you're talking to people and you become kind of niche famous, then there's a lot you can do with that, right? Because if you have that kernel
Yeah.
of kind of like of fans and followers and people that love what you're doing, then it becomes a lot easier to scale into those other places. And so I plan on scaling into every possible vertical that I can take the Mint products. Like I'm not only going to hit the Magic Gathering and the Pokemon crowd, but the same technologies we're using to build our displays and our protection things can be used in every other collectible vertical. I can even do
Right.
fine art, right? I can stick the Mona Lisa into our products because
Right.
it's a higher level of protection and safety. So the cool thing is you start into a niche, and
And
for people that want,
display. Not just protection and safety, but display.
yeah, display.
That to me is the beautiful thing. Like when your product's available, the first thing I'm doing is because I've now since lost them. I'm gonna buy every single Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. There's like 6 or 7 of them, and I'm gonna get them all in the mint cases, and I'm gonna have a display behind me.
One of these.
Yep,
Actually,
beautiful.
I built one of these specifically for Ken Griffey Jr. and I made a version for him, and I said, hey man, you can have this like fancy gold silver one that's kind of more mirrored, and we laser etch all the details on the side, and it's pretty special. It feels very heavy, and this plastic 50-cent piece is kind of the only option right now in the
Right.
in the hobby. So I went and built him a special version, and I took it to him. And I said, which one do you want? Do you want the fancy gold one, or do you want this kind of specialty one that's kind of based off Seattle Mariners colors? And he goes, he goes, I'm taking the Seattle one.
Yeah.
And then I remember, I went to his house like a couple weeks later and we were, talking shop and then it was, oh yeah, it was about a month or two after that. I was talking to his manager about something we're going to be doing. And his manager goes, Brian, you know that Ken Griffey takes the case you gave him of his rookie card everywhere he goes. It's always with him.
It's
And he
amazing.
likes showing it off to people. and he likes that, it's a better display, but it's his card. It's reminds him of when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And what's fun is that I pulled that card, that Griffey card that's sitting in his case, that I made for him, was a card that I pulled when I was in Vancouver 15 years ago when I was hitting up those card shops during a really sad time in my life. So
That's
I
amazing.
just think that's really fun from a kind of a personal story thing.
But that's the beauty of it. I mean, even for Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, I can't think of any athlete, not even Michael Jordan. I mean, Michael Jordan easily has like a more profitable brand than Ken Griffey Jr. does,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
he's also profited off of his brand so much more. There's this aura around Ken Griffey Jr. for guys like me and you who grew up in the
Yeah,
80s and the
yeah,
90s,
totally.
where I don't think that there's any name that really has that same kind of appeal or approach. And yet even this guy is like, yo, I'm bringing this card everywhere with me. Like his own rookie card. Like, why does his rookie card matter to him? But it does. There's something about these things that you tapped into. And yes, the cases are beautiful and gorgeous. And I know I don't know what you want me to talk about or not talk about. So so I won't lead with anything else that you're doing with it. But there are so many. The point is, when you build an audience like this around an idea, there's so many things that you can do with that, where it's just a matter of, hey, how many of my own itches can I scratch? And then you have the distribution network. Like, and people ask me all the time, hey, what do I do next? I get a lot of people who try to get me on a consulting call or something like that, and I'm trying to figure out what's next. I'm like, I don't know what you should do next. I don't think you have to rush into something next. I think being in between what was past and what was next is actually fine. And I think most people live most of their life actually in those in between states. Because
Yeah.
over the course of your life, you really don't need to do that many things or make that many decisions. But when you're in between, what you should be doing is preparing for what's ever next by following whatever your geeky hobby is, your
Yeah.
geeky obsession, and building an audience and a platform around that, so that when you figure out what's next, which is what you figured out, this thing takes off. And as you've been building it, you have all of the people to test out this thing.
Yeah.
Like, you've already shown this product to how many influential people in the space, from podcasters to other social media phenoms in the space to like local code shop owners and stuff, right? Like they're waiting for it because of all the
Yeah,
stuff that you did.
it's like market
Jesus,
testing,
man.
right? It's like the ultimate market testing. Like you could do all the surveys, focus groups, interviews you want to do, but like when we go and show our products, or when we're asking people questions about it because we genuinely want to know what they think, it's 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 the best possible information. Like when we walked into a card shop in San Diego, and there were all these kids that were in there. And I also did the same thing with this card shop in Las Vegas. And I walked in and I was just like, we're opening packs, having a good time. And then I'm like, let me go out to the car. Actually, I got some of our mint products in the car. Let me see what you guys mind if I show you guys what we're working on? And people get really excited because people love to see new things. They want to see new ideas. And people also love to critique things, right? They love to be able to say, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that.
Right.
Everyone wants to be able to give some kind of feedback in some kind of way. And so we lay the stuff on the table and we let people interact with it. And these kids are saying like, oh yeah, I would pay X amount for these things, or I would buy this, or I want to see this but with slightly different color. Can you make it this kind of
Yeah.
way? Or hey, I wish the size was a little bit different and changed like this, or can you also build this? And we don't just like listen to that. I mean, we don't usually film that. We just kind of take it in. We're taking notes, and the feedback we get from the followers and the people in the hobby and has just been priceless for us. And in fact, a lot of our pricing strategy is all based on what people told us at card shops, what they'd be willing to spend.
Well, so there's the feedback, but there's also the trust
Yeah.
that these people have held the thing. Think about it. If you're just like a guy on the internet, a person on the internet who creates content, You create content largely by yourself, maybe with a couple friends who are other quote unquote influencers, right? You're creating content around your thing. You've never really met people. You've never really spoken to humans. And then you come out with a product. People don't really trust you that you can deliver on something. People don't really have that reason to. Whereas with you, they do. There's so many people out there who you've actually met, who you've shaken their hands, who you've shown the product to, who's touched it, that immediately flood in. I mean, I see every time you talk about this product or what's coming and you show a teaser video or something like that, the amount of people who flood in that are like, hey man, I saw this at the Burbank Code Show. Yo, these things are good. Like, you can't, man, you can't manufacture that. Like, that to me is the trust element, though.
Yeah, it's the trust element has been shocking, right? Like initially we thought we'd need to have like a marketing,
No.
agency or whatever. And
No.
we about a year ago we were starting to kind of look at some marketing agencies, and then when we realized that the power of our social media was strong enough to, take us from this level to that level, and because a lot of people genuinely feel that they really know me, and because if you're faking your content, it's really hard to play a character every single time. And so I decided day one that I wasn't going to play any kind of character. I was going to be literally who I am and just be myself. So I didn't have to put on any facade. I don't have to try when I'm doing it, right? It's just natural reactions to things. And so I think because of that and kind of meeting so many people, that there's a feeling of, I feel like I know the audience and the audience knows me, and we're kind of like, we're friends. I feel like I'm friends with the audience. People will tell me, I've had people write me and send pictures of their new baby that was just born, or tell me about some sort of major event in their life, or I just got married, or here's my picture of that.
Right.
So I get these
Well, you are
very
friends with a lot
personal
of them.
connection.
I
I
mean, you
genuinely
have
am.
met a lot of them. Like when you meet people, here's what I ask you: if you meet people at a card show, or you meet people in a card shop or on the street, you can PAX to you. Do you tell them like, "Hey, this is me on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is," and like, is there any of that conversation? Like, "Hey, here's what this video is going to be," or no?
Uh, Not really. Like, I mean, it's starting to, yeah, like it's usually like when I go into any kind of scenario, I'll just kind of do it. And then sometimes, Sam will go around and ask people around, like, hey, do you guys mind if we put this on the internet?
Mm,
Or people, they'll just be like, oh, are you on, like, where are you going to post this? Are you making a video for something? And like, I've given out a lot of packs at baseball games. And
right.
so I remember, once I filmed with this 13-year-old girl who turned out to be one of my, favorite people I've met in the last couple of years. It was a girl. Actually, I got to back it up a little bit. I was at this. It was a game in Philadelphia at the Phillies, and I got a message at the very end of the game. Somebody saying, "Hey, I saw that you just posted from the game. I would love to meet you. I'm just down in section whatever." And I was like, "Oh man, I'm about to leave. I don't know if I want to, like, what can't this person kind of meet somewhere else? Why do I have to go
Right.
down to their section?" Kind of thing. And I was like, maybe that person's got some sort of mobility issues or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll just go and say hi to this person. So go to the opposite end of the stadium, go, to where this person is. And it turns out it's this 13-year-old girl and her mom.
Right.
And she's like, of course the girl gets all quiet, and her mom's like, "Oh, Jamie's been following you this whole time. She's a big fan. She was hoping she could open a pack with you." And so I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." And so we opening this pack, but she's like almost front row in, like, by the first base. And so a lot of people are seeing me standing there, opening this pack with this girl, and so I open the cards, and we take a picture and all that, and wish her well.
Right.
And then I'm walking up back to get out of the stadium, and people just keep stopping me the whole way, saying, like, who are you? What's your social channel?
Right.
And so it turns out that, yeah, a lot of times people will ask, and then we'll show them, but we're not going up to people ever and saying, like, "Hey, my name is Brian. Here's my channel." That
Well,
kind of.
that's the thing that I wonder. Like, to me, there's kind of a pro and con. The way that you do it is more genuine, but there's got to be a way to capture a lot more of the people that you meet, so that you can just continue to get to know them after you've met them in person,
Yeah.
right? Like, just like, oh no, I dropped a card, just like Just like pretend that it fell out of your pocket or something. I don't know. There's got to be something.
Yeah,
you
usually
can do
people will
there.
reach out to me after something and they'll write me on Instagram and say, "Hey, that was really cool. I met you at that thing." And so a lot of people at the time when we're filming won't know what's going on, but then later they'll write me. Like I have a lot of card shop owners that will write me immediately after, or people that were at the shop, or people that were at games. They'll just write me and say, "Hey, I was at that game and I saw you and I'd love to connect." And then I've actually gone out and met a lot of these people. Like I'll reach out to people as I'm traveling and I'll think, "Oh, there's, I know that one guy, he's up in Seattle. He's been following me for the last, 2 years. He's always written such amazing content. I'm going to let him know that I'm going to be at this one card show or a card shop in Seattle." And so I plan on doing more of that. Like I want to do more like event kind of things where like I'm going to New York next couple weeks. I'm going to tell all the people in New York, I'm going to be at this one place. If anybody's in New York, you want to meet up, let's go meet up and let's hang out. Let's go talk cards, talk
Yeah, I
shop, and
wonder
have
if
a good
there's a
time.
way to strategize that and like document it in some way. Like document it in terms of, all right, here's like my list of card shop owners in this place, or here's my
Yeah.
whatever. But the way you do it is just so genuine that it would have to be carefully done.
Well, I do want to hire more people, right? Like in the next year, we're hitting the point where we've hit a point in the company where we're so overstretched, like we're doing too many things and we don't have enough time. And so I do plan on kind of bringing some more people on board where I can have a social media manager, or I can have somebody that's setting up all these dates and all these relationships and these more meetups, and where I can kind of get more involved in these things. It's hard to build this company at the same time I'm also doing the
That's
social
it,
media
isn't
while
it?
also trying to have a life. And so I do want to hire some more people to be able to maximize all the different opportunities that are out there. We've just been limited by our and so we've been just limited, and so we've been trying to do things as organic. But I do plan on making this a lot more into a quite a massive company, and where I can kind of say to a few people that are working there, "Hey, how can you maximize every opportunity here? How can we do this in a way that's going to make this even better
Yeah, without losing the specialness of it.
without losing the
There's-
specialness?" Yeah.
you're such a good example. There's this. I don't remember the exact line to quote, but in the book, in the Obvious Choice book, I talk a fair bit about this misconception where you have to create this like magical content online to enable you to do dope shit in the real world, and that's just completely ass backwards. The truth of the matter is, you got to do dope shit in the real world, and then you go and share it online.
Yeah.
And you are such a perfect example of this. And so, Brian, psyched to have this conversation with you, man. This was fun. Get back to your 150, 200 days at the Marriott.
Well, I was
talk
gonna
soon,
say,
man.
John, like, I'm gonna have to come out to a Blue Jays game, right? Like, it's got to happen, right? I've got to come up to Toronto. So
Once
I
they
think
make the playoffs, I'll grab us tickets. How about that?
there we go, man.
Right.
It's a matter of time, John, until you and I are opening some packs at a Blue Jays game,
That'd be fun.
and that's gonna be a special day. We'll go to batting practice and go hang out with Vladdy while we're opening packs with him. How about that?
I don't want to distract him. That dude's got to focus a little bit more than he's focusing right now. Anyway, Brian, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, dude.
Hey, thank you so much, Jonathan. Really appreciate it, man.
Bye bye.